Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Zonio, Director, Writer, and Editor of Panorama. Ang Panorama ay nagfo-follow ng isang elderly lab technician that struggles in the digital age of technology, and he handles a film lab business in that age. For me, naturally nag-gravitate ako sa narrative because I feel like that's my strength as a filmmaker. I'm open to exploring different styles as well, like experimental and other types of genres. But personally, it just made sense to choose narrative because I've been watching a lot of narrative films as well. And I wanted to focus on trying to better my craft in the narrative genre. So for the messaging of my film, it actually started with my experiences as a college student in filmmaking because I feel like it was so daunting to be alongside talented artists as well who feel like they have a step above the rest. And coming from like a small town in Laguna, I feel like moving out towards the city and seeing the amount of talent that's there, I wanted to tackle that in my capstone project. That's how Panorama started as. I was looking through some prompts in my past writing projects. I stumbled upon this one line that explored an old man or a film lab technician who has customers coming in and seeing their lives through a different lens, a very isolated lens from everyone else. So in that sense, in the film, in the context of the film, it's the analog photography art medium against the current digital technology with digicams against analog and dispo. And the parallelisms with that is my talents with other people's talents. And I feel like that brings about self-doubt as me as filmmaker finding my place here because there are a lot of many talented artists in my space, and it caused a lot of creative burnouts, especially during the pandemic where I felt like people had a lot of a big head start. And I think if analog photography was a person, that's what it would have felt like. It was a notch above the rest, and there's the way it could keep up with the conveniences of digital photography because everything is instant. Everything, you take a picture, in 1 second, you already have it. Well, compared to analog, it takes time, it takes a lot of patience, and it's still a primitive art medium. But in a certain period of time, around the 2015 year, people naturally came back to it. And doon na-discover ng mga tao that there is a place for it. And that goes with my personal experiences as an artist. Even though there is always a way for your art to find a place, there's always a way to coexist with these talented individuals. It's the matter of finding yourself in that. And there are a lot of like underlying themes of Panorama, but that's the main one. But there's also a talk of the theme of change, going against change, and through the other characters, accepting change and whatnot. So yeah, I also wanted to talk about like tackling the turbulence that you go through in your 20s, and it actually doesn't matter on your age bracket and whatnot, as portrayed by my main character. Even with that, as someone who has a lot of wisdom, who has a lot of experiences under his belt, he still has a lot of uncertainties when it comes to his life. And there's kind of like my reflections, self-reflections that I embedded on this character. I really wanted to shoot this in film, and honestly, that's the dream. Pero in terms of feasibility as well, it wasn't possible during the time, considering this is like a student film production. But we wanted to keep faithful as much as we can, from the artistic direction, from the color grading to the cinematography. Even if it was using digital cameras, we wanted to emulate film as much as we can, given the budget and constraints at the time. But with that, we did use real film and referenced a lot of film labs around the area, around Makati, and around some connections that I have with the film lab industry. So in terms of my actors and trying to explain my vision towards the characterizations of each, I'm working alongside really talented actors, and coming from just from nowhere as a film student, it was kind of daunting to see how I would approach this. But we did a lot of extensive workshopping and meetings, and in regards to discussing character and inspirations and whatnot. They're really talented, so they really caught on and gave a lot of suggestions. It was a very collaborative space where any idea was actually pretty up for debate. And as a director, I'm not really opposed to things like that. If there's someone that wants to bring something unique to the table that I did not foresee, because for example, my character Lolo Magno, in the earlier stages of his character, he was very malleable in my screenplay. So when Sir Rolando Inocencio graced the role, we had a lot of talks on how he would characterize the overall nuances of Lolo Magno. So it was a lot of collaboration. For example, my other actor, Sir Paj, he was or si Vincent Pahara. He was also keen on asking for inspirations on movies and whatnot, and the overall tone, because I feel like comparing their filmography to the certain aspect of what Panorama came to be, it's more of a slow burn and it's very restrained compared to what they usually do. For example, Sir Rolando does a lot of theater and comedies and teleseries, and the switch up was kind of hard to balance. But overall, we were trying to figure out how to push and pull between expressions and whatnot. For the most part, it was just really about constant communication and practicing and rehearsals. So in regards to the cinematography, there was a lot of discussion in developing this. As I said before, we really wanted to capture the essence of film and celluloid, but we are filming in a digital camera, so that made for a lot of obstacles to try to replicate it as one-to-one as we can. So I actually had my colorist, Sir Arins Janela, and he actually owns South Lab, which makes perfect sense for him to jump into the production. And we were talking a lot on how we're going to dial in the look, because if we push the film look too much, it might be hard to take in as an audience, because maybe it's too stylistic. Because I didn't want it to take away from the overall dialogues and the whole mood and tone of the film. So there was a lot of talk about that, and adjusting the film grain, adjusting the halation, adjusting all of these hallmarks of what makes the film look real. And in regards to my cinematographer, there was a lot of challenges when it came to Panorama, because for our location, it's just one location and it's very cramped. And considering the technical requirements of our camera department, they were pretty bulky, and there was a lot of talks with my cinematographer on how we would adjust and how would we film certain angles. And ultimately, there were some shots that were reframed for the sake of getting the story across. And those were things that even if in practice we planned for it, in actuality also made it difficult, because there were a lot of aspects that came into play that we did not foresee during production. But yeah, it was a lot of dialing in the looks and whatnot, because yeah, the film look is very specific, and if I don't capture that, I don't think I do this film justice. So the main challenge was the space. Personally, I really just wanted it to be one small compact space, because it also reflected with the small boxed-in world of Lolo Magno. And I think it was a perfect representation of his character. But early on, we already knew that these problems were going to go into play in terms of actors' blockings, cinematography, production design as well, to make it feel like it's lived in, whilst maintaining space for the camera department, for production design assistants to come in and help out and whatnot, or even the assistant director maneuvering through the scene and helping out. There were a lot of challenges, and I think that was the main one that we encountered. And it there were a lot of things also that we didn't foresee, such as the temperature. That was one thing that became one thing that we really didn't think about, but ultimately affected the whole production. Those are things that we didn't foresee. But aside from that, also the main challenges that I encountered is, as a director, trying to keep the vision intact while collaborating with other departments, because this is my first time in trying to have a hand at a bigger production compared to like the usual short films that I've worked on as a student. So that was pretty daunting. And of course, I really want to respect their decisions and whatnot. And I have to also learn to accept that and see where I can take that direction and still align it to the overall vision that was in play from the start. So for me, what I would advise my fellow filmmakers, especially in the younger generation, is that just start. Honestly, you can just start with whatever you have. It sounds super cliche. I think every person from the film industry says it, to start whatever with whatever they have. But it's true, because that's where you learn and try to honing your style as a director, trying to figure out what cameras you should use, what acting capabilities do you look for in terms of aligning it with your screenplay. It's just starting. And that was kind of my mindset when coming into this film, because just for context, in past short film projects, I normally take the back seat. I don't really push for getting a director role and whatnot, because yeah, as I said, the competition around the batch is very, very difficult to wrap your mind around, and it really questions your ability as a filmmaker. It's not necessarily in terms of aggression or whatever. It's just more of like doubting yourself in your place in the industry. I think it's really just once I got there and started writing the script and eventually developing the ideas around it, it kind of, you get a feel for what needs to be chosen for certain artistic choices that will best serve the story. So definitely, if you are just starting out as a filmmaker, grab whatever equipment and friends that you have, and as much as possible start early, because if you have the leeway and the time to create your short films or whatnot, it's the best time is now, because once you keep on practicing and whatnot, you get to filter out what you like and what you don't like when it comes to approaching more films. So yeah, definitely the best place to start is from whatever you got. Ako po si Aaron Zonio, at ito ang aking maikling pelikula.
Bali, 270 po, no? Ito rin po pala. Ganun na lang ulit. Balikan ko na lang po.
Hello pa.
Hello anak, magkano mabibigay mo ngayong linggo?
Sa katapusan pa sahod ko,
Kahit magkano, konti lang para mabayaran ko tong telepono,
di mo
mapuputulan
ba
ako.
kaya ipagkasya yung kinikita mo dyan? Paano na pa? Yung mga gastos mo dyan, wala namang bumabalik.
Anak, may mga panahon na matumal ang negosyo, pero ayos lang ang mga bagay-bagay dito.
Pinapahirapan mo lang sarili mo, tapos nadadamay ako.
Anak, konti lang. Para lang hindi maputulan ang
Wala
tulog.
pa nga talaga. Pabayaan mo muna. Sino-sino lang din naman ba ang kailangan mong tawagan? Sige na pa, may inasikaso ko dito.
Sige.
Magkano mga memory card nyo?
Memory card.
Yung maraming space na daw. Ano ulit sinabi ng kuya, nak?
2 GB.
Wala ako kaming ganyan dito.
Eh di kahit anong klaseng memory card, basta magamit na niya.
Madam, wala nga ho kaming memory card dito.
Eh anong klaseng camera shop to?
Love po. Kung wala ho kayo ipapadevelop, sa iba ho kayo pumunta. Sinasayang niyo po ang oras ko.
Lika na, Mutya.
Sabi ko sa'yo, Ma, dapat doon na lang tayo sa kabila. Puro luma lang nandito eh.
Magandang hapon po. May tulo po. Tulungan ko na po kayo.
Hindi, kaya ko na to. Unahan na kita, ha? Hindi kami nagbebenta rito ng memory card.
Hindi po. Magpapadevelop po ako. Tsaka magpapaprint na din po. Magkano po ba yun?
Color o black and white?
Colored.
135.
135?
Tsaka anong size? 3R, 4R, 5R?
Hmm.
135?
Pakita ko na lang po sa inyo.
270 yan kasama printing.
270.
Anong pangalan mo?
Ana Pinedo.
Ay, saka mo na bayaran pag kukunin mo na.
Ay, sorry po. Magkano po benta niyo dito?
Yung TLR, mahal yan. 10 million.
Sige, hanggang tingin na lang po.
Ayos na. Balik ka na lang sa Martes.
Salamat po.
Ba't ganito?
Eh, baka panis yung rolyo na ginamit mo, kaya sorry ah. Yung kuha mismo. Oh. Saan ka pupunta? Eh, di ba papadevelop mo yan?
Hindi na po.
Roy, kaya kong gawin yan. Dito mo na ipadevelop. Hindi na mauulit, aayusin ko. Naubusan na ng chemical. Nakita mo naman yung una kong gawa, di ba? Ang ganda nun. Roy,
Lo, hindi po pwedeng masira tong role na to.
peperpektuhin ko. Pinapangako ko yan sa'yo. Kukunti na lang kayong dumadaan dito. Nakikiusap ako.
Sige na po.
Salamat. Pwedeng hiramin yung cellphone mo.
A2C Chemicals Incorporated. Ano po kailangan nila?
Ivan, si Magno to. Mag-order ako ng pampotolab kung pwede bukas kagad.
Ay, Sir Magno. Sakto't umabot pa kayo sa tira-tirang stock. Tatanggalin na kasi sa inventory ang 76.
Ano ibig mo sabihin?
Wala na po kasing demand sa ganyan.
Anong walang demand? Eh di ba kliyente niyo ko?
Sir, iilan lang kasi kayo. Lugi kami.
Ang bihira.
Pasensya na ho talaga pero padala ko na dyan yung order niyo bukas. Ha?
Sige. Salamat. Roy. Ayusin ko to. Roy, katatapot ko lang gawin yung sa'yo. Oh, pirma ka muna. Yan. 270. Congrats. Uy, congrats ka ako. Kaya pala napaka-importante ng rolyong yan.
Hindi na ho natuloy. 5 taon na pong nakatambak tong mga to eh.
Ha? Eh, ang saya-saya nyo dyan sa mga retratong yan.
Oo nga.
Hindi mo akalain.
Kahit ako, nagulat noon eh.
Ba't ngayon mo lang naisipang ipa-develop?
Wala lang.
Roy, kahit gaano katagal mong titigan ang mga yan, mga litrato na lang ang mga yan. Itabi mo na ang mga yan.
Pwede po po magpa-pick up.
Oo naman.
Pasensya na po parang sarado na po kayo eh.
Hindi naman tatakbo yung negatives mo, tsaka yung pictures. Pirma ka dito. $270. Andyan na rin ang mga negatibo. $270.
Pasensya na po.
Naalala mo yung camera na tinitignan mo nung isang araw? Binibenta ko. Baka interesado ka. Ito yung gamit ko na nagsisimula pa lang ako. Nakita kong parang may mata ka para sa ganito. Mas may silbi ito sa'yo kaysa sa akin.
Akala ko po hindi niyo po binabenta yan.
Saan galing yun?
Sabi niyo po 10 milyon, di ba?
Ay, Andy, huwag mong pansinin yun. Subasta na ngayon. 4K.
4K. Kaso... 1K lang po mabibigay ko po ngayon eh.
Pwede na yan. Hulugan mo na lang yung iba. May rolyo na ito para magamit mo na.
Nakakaya na po.
Naku, huwag mo isipin yun. Basta ang tandaan mo, dito mo ipapadevelop. Ayos? Kalikutin mo. Pag-aralan mo kung paano gagamitin yan. At pag naubos mo na yung isang rolyo, saka kita tuturuan.
Sige po, sir. Maraming salamat po. Balik po ako, ah.
May bago na agad.
Opo. Kaso, may isang shot pa po ako eh.
Ba't di mo pa gamitin? Sayang naman.
Naisip ko na po yung Lo. Naka-reserve po para sa inyo.
Ay, nako. Hindi ako nagpo-post.
Sige na, Lo. Upo ka lang dyan saglit. Isa lang.
Isa lang.
Isa lang po. Promise.
Sayang ang kuwang yan.
Hindi po. Ano, Lo? Ano nga bang nagpapangiti sa inyo?